You're good.
Good.
Yes.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Chair Mercy,
Here.
Commissioner Palmer. Here. Commissioner Livermore.
Here.
Commissioner Levinson. Here. Councilmember Day.
Here.
Thank you. Since Mr. Main is here, I'd like to amend the agenda so we can take this property. He's number 5 on our agenda. So if you just pull out the 86 Clinton Street. Here. Mr. Main is appealing fees from 2020 for heating inspection, property use certification, and smoke and heat alarms. His appeal is based on him taking possession of the property and living there as a resident instead of it being a rental. So it changed use from rental, so none of these inspections were required. I think your appeal is appropriate, and I would like to make a motion that we approve his appeal pending receipt of the insurance changeover that you indicate that you got, so that we have an objective document saying this is the date when you changed.
Okay.
So it isn't just you saying, well, yeah, I changed it. Well, we don't have, we aren't sure of that date because.
Yeah, it was time brought
So, but
in.
that's okay. What you can do, if we approve that motion, is to give that to the code enforcement office, and then they will indicate that, yes, your fees would be vacated. Okay, so that's my, yes, your question.
Question. Have to be seconds, and I have a question. Okay, my question is, did this go to the tax roll?
Ask code enforcement.
Did this hit the tax roll, because as of the 31st of October, it would have?
I'm sorry. Yeah, yes, we were closing them out. Yeah. For the end of the year. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, so this will not go to the tax roll?
No, when anything that's appealed,
Hold,
It's not.
just want to make sure
Anyway.
that doesn't happen, okay. Thank you.
Any other questions by board members? Did I get a second? Okay. With that in mind? Yes.
Commissioner Palmer.
Yes.
Commissioner Livermore.
Yes.
Commissioner Levinson.
Yes.
Okay, Mr. Main, we've approved your appeal, but you do need to get that documentation, just showing
Okay.
that you actually did change over your insurance, or get a statement
Sure.
from your insurance agent
Sure.
that you actually changed it over, and you'll be fine.
Okay.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for coming in.
Thank you.
Okay, getting back to our agenda, I'd like an approval of the minutes from September 9th.
So moved.
I guess she's good. I think. Yes,
I didn't know if you were doing discussion.
I don't think so.
Okay. Commissioner Palmer.
Yes.
Commissioner Livermore.
Yes.
Commissioner Levinson.
Yes.
All right. So now we'll go to our actual new business. We have 59 Elm Street, and you can project some photos for us. Oh, we got one of them. It's coming. Anyway, sometimes I wonder when I see photos like this has to be a single family residence, right? Because otherwise this would be unsafe.
this,
I mean, it would be unsafe by you.
We had declared it unsafe many years ago. It was already supposed to be taken down, and it wasn't, so.
Oh, well
But
then,
now we have new owners.
oh, God, so we have to do
They're ready
this.
to take it down.
This is 59 Elm.
That's
Based on the
That's
photograph.
yeah,
Center.
that's center.
14 Center?
It's
Maybe
labeled
the
as-
most file.
Okay.
Okay, so this is 14 Center, so we're,
Oh,
so
yeah.
should we look instead at 59 Elm? Let's look at 59 Elm.
14 14 Center's photos. No,
14 Center is the same.
is the same. So I don't have photos then for 15.
Shall we move to 14 on in the meantime while he pulls those together for us?
Okay, do we have photos of 50 now?
I'm sorry.
59 now.
59
Yeah, I'm gonna try to pull them up. I think Dana wanted to move to.
Want to
Center
move to
Street.
14
Oh, we
Center
might as
since
well
we
go
have
ahead
it?
and do this while they're figuring that out. Good idea. So based on that, our own observations, the testimony of the code enforcement office and the photographs that we have, I would make a motion that B, C, D, E, and H, and I. So B, C, D, E, H, and I.
And this is at the request of the owner?
Yes, and this is at the request of the owner. So, of course, this is a two-step process, so we would, depending on your position on this, we would declare it unsafe, and then we would determine based on what to do based on the request of the owner and the recommendation of the code enforcement office.
I make that motion.
So my motion is that we declare this unsafe, B, C, D, E, H, and I.
I second it.
Any comments that you would like to make, Joe or? John?
Not really. I mean, that's in terrible shape. It should have come down years ago.
Okay.
All of the garages, all of them have the same caving and roofs. Except, I'm sorry, the Irving one doesn't. But that's the first one we're gonna talk about, the plumb bottom.
Right, that's right. That's where we can talk about one bomb. So I think with no further discussion, we'll vote.
Chairman,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
Commissioner Livermore,
Yes.
Commissioner Levinson.
Yes.
Okay, based on our determination that this garage is unsafe, it's been requested by the property owner and to assist the property owner in a speedy demolish of this building, that we order it demolished within 60 days. That'll give us to the end of the year.
Sure.
How many days?
60.
Okay.
Is it secure? Is it accessible, like to a kid to go in that building?
Not
right
really.
From the street?
I mean,
Okay.
they have it pretty well closed up. So, Joe Valetti recently acquired that property and he wants to take it down and he's trying to make improvements. So I think that was one of his first things, was making sure it was safe.
And I'll second that 60-day motion.
So
Are you
would
making
someone
a
like to
motion?
make that motion?
Sure, I'll make that motion. 60 days.
I'll
Second. For no further discussion, we'll vote.
Chairman,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
Commissioner Livermore,
Yeah.
Commissioner Levinson.
Yes.
Okay, the next one, did we find pictures of 59?
I've got his email, but I can't download the attachment. It's too large. So,
Do we have a file?
yeah, I mean, yeah, I could do it in probably 2 minutes.
Yeah, but forward it to her
My
and
email.
she's got it right there.
Oh,
And I
yeah.
can open it.
Yeah, let's see if I can do that here.
Oh, that's you.
Yeah, that's me.
Oh. Okay, and we're just waiting for it to pop up, right?
Should have it. Hopefully.
Technology.
Oh, yeah, when it works. Yay. There we go.
Oh, 59 is also, they're both Joe Valente?
Yep, all three of
All
them.
three, were just different names on each, you know,
Oh, really?
yeah.
Okay. Too big?
Well, there's no roof really, so.
So when I originally tried to open these, I had a problem too.
Okay. Oh, there we go. Oh, yes, yes. So there is the, are you just opening them all so you can scroll through them?
Okay.
And this one, I actually, when I was on a housing inspection, I told them that I was gonna declare it unsafe. And he just voluntarily came forward and he said, yep, I'll do it.
It's so funny, it looks like when you're driving by, it doesn't really look.
Yeah, I know, I look at it.
Yeah, because I drove by and I was like, what, why are we taking that down? It doesn't look like anything's wrong with it, but you can't really see from the street.
That's why.
Yeah.
I mean, he could probably put a new roof on it and save it. No. I know. Well, why don't you describe it to us then? Well, there's
So we
something.
can see, yeah,
I mean,
there
you
you go,
can see
there you
that
go.
the interior structural members are faulty, so that would be B, C, D, F, or E, I, and I don't know, yes, an H. So this is just like the previous one. Okay, so B, C, D, E, H, and I. Any discussion about this designation? Sad. I make a motion that we declare this unsafe based on those characteristics. B, C, D, E, H, and I. Do I have a second? Any further discussion?
Chairperson,
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
Commissioner Livermore,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans.
Yes.
Okay, based on that decision and designation, the owner has requested, and it would be expeditious for us to determine that this should be demolished, and they need to get a building permit from the code enforcement office. And I forgot to mention in the previous one that we need a full cleanup of the site when the demolition is done to protect the public. That would be my motion. So I'll move that. Second? Phil. Thank you. Any further discussion? No, okay,
Chairperson,
yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
Commissioner Livermore,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans.
Yes.
Do you want to amend
Can
your
I amend
motion?
my motion then for?
Yeah, I think we
14 Center
should,
Street
just to
for
make
cleanup
sure we
as
get a
well?
cleanup. That's usually the part that, when it's an owner desired,
Right.
that we care the most about. You know, that they don't leave a
I
pile of.
just assume it all the time when we're doing them, but.
Yeah, and I just need to remember to do that.
Give a second.
Someone second my amendment to my motion, please.
I'll second
Yes.
Commissioner Coleman,
Yes.
Commissioner Livermore,
Yes.
Commissioner Evans.
Yes.
Okay, so now we have 13 Irving I hope you have pictures of that. I thought I saw them. I thought they were probably even in that. Oh, okay, so this is basically a shed. I don't think it ever was a garage. Maybe it was a garage, a carriage house. Let's go through the pictures.
So there's only two, and I went back today to get a closer look at it. These are the Joe Vladdy's guys' pictures.
Uh-huh.
And I went inside. Honestly, the framing isn't bad. It's leaning substantially.
That's because it has no foundation.
Well, it looks like it's pulling up on this side, it's sinking in over here, the windows in the back are separated probably 2 inches. So, I mean,
It's hardly worth saving, unfortunately, because of the size. I mean, it's really just a shed.
they don't wanna maintain it.
It's just a shed, it's not a
They wanna
garage.
take it down.
And it's in our best interest to have something that's shabby gone. I mean, it doesn't, we don't lose revenue over it. So what do you think, board members?
Yeah.
Is that enough to declare it unsafe, or should we, I mean, I don't think this is a case where it necessarily needs to go through the planning board and get a site plan review. But that may be my opinion.
So the process, if we don't declare this unsafe, is what? Is it more costly for the homeowner?
So what ends up happening is,
They just leave it.
the current code requires that before you can do any sort of demolition, you either have to get it declared unsafe by the Board of Public Service, or you have to pay $150 or $100 to go to the planning commission to do a site plan review to approve a demolition, which we've removed that in the new code update for downtown, but it still exists throughout the city. So what would end up happening is theoretically, Joe Valetti, the owner of the property, would have to appear in front of the planning commission at next month's meeting and pay money to do a site plan review to remove what, it's probably an 8x10 shed, maybe. I walk by it every day, but it's like an 8x10 or an 8x.
And this is why, in a way, this is our service to the public, in that we streamline that process. And it doesn't cost them anything to bring in a request to the Board of Public Service, as opposed to the planning board, which has to publish and they have to do all the other stuff. And in the case of the garage,
Not even a garage.
I mean, the unfortunate part is that the intended requirement of requiring site plan review for demolitions was to prevent people from tearing down like structures that have like architectural value or worth. But the problem that it didn't really address is like, well, that also includes like little sheds like this that are architecturally not that important. Don't
Can we
create
declare
value.
something unsafe without it actually having
It should need a definition. on there.
multiple requirements here?
Yeah, so this is the first time I've ever been able to use this one, but there's a definition that it meets on there.
Go ahead, tell
It's in
me.
violation of zoning code.
That one too.
Oh, zoning code.
No, it's the,
Number J, letter J, you're talking about?
whose interior walls or other vertical structures list, lean, buckle
Yes.
to such an extent that a plumb line passing through the center of gravity falls outside the middle third of its base.
that is definitely true there.
It's definitely true. Okay, so then it does meet the requirements. It's not like we're not
And-
doing anything here.
And there is an aspect, if you look at it, of it not being a secure building and there being interior deterioration, as John was saying, that the windows in the back
Yeah.
do not even fit together because of the list of the building. So in this case, it would be A,
Mhm.
D. You know, whether you take H because it is unsecured, so that, not that they would fall and injure members of the public, but they might injure members of the public because it's unsecured.
Right.
I mean, those are the characteristics that I would
Yeah, I'm good with that.
indicate, so.
And he's willing to
So
do
A, D, and,
A, B, and H.
A, D, and H.
right. Is that acceptable? I mean, you can, this is your
Yeah.
reference too. Questions in this regard? This is probably the questionable one that we're doing, although I still think that we're doing a service to this property owner by making it easier for him to get rid of something that is basically
I don't. disagree.
unsightly, dangerous, unrepairable, whatever you want to call
And he's looking at doing 3 properties at once to clean up at the same time, which makes it even better.
it. So you want to make that motion?
Yes, I will make that
Okay.
motion, chapter 9, based on unsafe property checklist, chapter 92, A, D, and H, that it is an unsafe property.
Okay, second? Thank you. Yes.
Generic. Commissioner Ballmer, Commissioner Livermore, Commissioner Levens.
Yes.
Okay, based on the request of the homeowner and the condition of the building, the recommendations of the code enforcement office, I make a motion that we order this demolished within 60 days and the property cleaned of the debris of the demolition.
I'll second it.
Yes.
Skipping the discussion part, you're throwing me off.
I know. I think we're in agreement on all these, right?
Commissioner
Jump in,
Did
board
discuss.
members, if you're not.
Commissioner Livermore.
Yes.
Commissioner Levens.
Yes. We kind of like discussed it before we did. Because I was asked questions.
Well, I know it. Okay, so let's move on to Mr. Edmonds. This is his testimony on his 2 invoices related to the smoke and heat detector alarm certification. There was a misunderstanding with the clerk at the desk over who needed to sign the form. She can state herself that I was in with the form well before the deadline. This is the statement of Sarah Lymell, who was the clerk. Mary Evans came in sometime in September before his administrative fee for smoke detectors started to accrue. I believe it was the week before it was due, September 23rd. It's actually earlier. He says it was September 1st, but the form had the property address filled in and all the questions answered, but there was no inspection date or name or signature of the person who performed the inspection. I pointed that out and told him I couldn't accept it because it was incomplete. He said his electrician did the inspection. He wasn't sure of the date and that he would have to track him down to get his signature. I reminded him to get it in before the due date and he left with the form. And then he finally got it in by October 15th.
But he signed it himself. He didn't have.
So I
Electrician
want
side.
to clarify that.
Yeah,
The individual then came back and I said to him, as the homeowner and as the person that lives there, you can sign the form yourself. You could turn this form in. And he said, no, I'm going to go get my electrician. So,
And then
I
he
don't-
signed it himself.
yeah, so I mean, this whole thing is kind of weird because the day that he talked to Sarah, I was like, well, as the property owner and the person that lives in the building, you can do this inspection yourself and file the form yourself. And he said, yeah, and then he walked out with the form. So,
Okay.
I mean, I wish I could say that this was a tragedy of errors, but it just seemed
well,
weird.
I certainly don't think Sarah made the error.
No?
I think everyone in the code enforcement office apparently did their job and told him what needed to be done, and he just didn't get it in.
I mean, I even encouraged him at the time to just sign the form and turn it in.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Like,
with
And
that,
then he signed it on the 1st and mailed it.
uh-huh,
Oh,
I
okay.
don't know why.
I make a motion to deny based on the testimony that we referred, as well as the evidence that we have that it wasn't.
right, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
No. Additional discussion? Thank you, yes, thank you, yes.
Commissioner Palmer,
Yeah,
Commissioner Livermore,
yes.
Commissioner Levinson.
Yes.
Okay, the next one is Mr. Landy. Lamb. His appeal reads, we were not able to get this inspection due to COVID and not being able to access the apartments due to tenants being in quarantine. However, the forms are all ones that the homeowner or the property owner signs, and they are not required an inspection. So,
By the way, he just emailed me and said I requested a reschedule.
he said, well,
He just requested a reschedule. I just got that email.
oh, he wants another date for this?
He wants another day. Also, we've got additional appeal from him down in our office to go in December.
We'll probably have another one.
So can we table this then?
Yes, let's table it, that's fine, we'll table it to December, but understand that that
Oh, yes.
is the situation. So, I make a motion that we table the, 53 Center Street appeal and put it on the agenda for December. Thank you. Now we have Mr. Bolo from 8 Cozy Avenue. Mr. Bolo, please, I think, well, we'll see.
He requested the reschedule as well.
He also requested this reschedule.
I think he said, let's keep it on the agenda anyway.
Oh, well, it'll be tabled until,
If you want to.
well, here's the reality. Let's talk about Mr. Bowler's appeal. He appealed this on October 13th. But the form that he submitted, he hasn't submitted anything. Has he?
Yeah, I did a housing inspection, that's what would have generated the invoice.
So tell me about his housing inspection. He said he was unable to do it because of COVID, but
Well,
it was due-
that he was saying, so, the admin letter when it went out, I believe December of 2020. We were doing inspections just like we are today.
yeah,
We've
that's
done
what,
them ever since then,
yeah, that's what my understanding is that,
Well,
COVID has nothing to do with it.
In 2020, we stopped, obviously, in March when everything stopped.
March till the end of July, right?
July, then we started again, and we stopped some in September when the college had their flare thing. And then we went back at it, so there was no,
His was due February 14th, 2021.
yeah.
And do we have a date of when you actually were able to do the housing inspection? I mean, this is something. that's
Well,
stopped.
I guess, just, guess because this invoice is dated September 30th, so I had to do sometime.
Or this was a closeout and he hasn't done it yet.
No, he did the
I
inspection.
did
Oh, you
the
did,
inspection, yeah, so that's
So
what.
sometime-
I'm confused. Can you go back a second? This inspection was due February 14th of 2021. And you did the inspection when? September of 20,
September of
2021.
I don't know, top of my head.
Because they
It says,
because they
I would
wouldn't get
assume
you
it
in
was
to
a
do
day or
it.
two before the invoice.
No, they didn't make an appointment for it.
Says October
That's what I mean.
14th.
I mean, we're going to table this, but I think it's good for us
To know what the
to
story
at
line
least
is.
suggest what
Yes.
Wait, what they even-
Yeah.
October 14th.
October
Sorry
14th.
about that.
This the day before,
Pardon me?
is this the day before? Is this the first time it's come to us?
This is the first time it's come to us.
So they scheduled the appointment with you and you in October.
We got it.
This year, yeah.
And I don't know, maybe what we can have for the next meeting is
Can we have your breakdown sheet thingy that you guys
emails
normally
or
do?
whatever that you got from him saying, I want to set up an inspection, I want to set up an inspection. If you've got nothing, then
Right,
that's
okay, yeah. I can do that.
because he said an attempt was made to set up an appointment. but the office was closed due to COVID. Well, not in 2021.
Well, not even in 2020, when we went, the end of the year there is what we
I
started.
mean, this was,
Because if you look at all the, when he got this admin letter, immediately, everything was turned in except for the inspection. All the things that needed to be done there.
Yeah, you know how you have that breakdown thing for us, like
oh, the what's due,
what's due, when it's due, when they did it type thing? You normally give us
Yeah, requirements.
the requirement, thank you. It's in the
Yep.
budget as well.
Sorry, I have a pretty other problem.
You're fine.
now,
Yeah, I thought this was.
Because the data, like the whole
There's no
COVID
problem.
thing's throwing me off, 'cause
one other thing, we have a certified mail receipt from Mr. Ackerman at Dash Point Center. He is the property manager.
Sole agent, so that's
He's the
why,
sole agent, that's why Mr. Bolo has been receiving the,
correct, yeah.
but he does receive the bills because he's the owner. Just so you all know, that the inspection letter, if you look at the inspection letter,
to say, to send
it
it.
was sent to Mr. Bolo December of 2020. 2020.
Yep.
Well, it's the admin letter, what you're saying?
Yep.
But if you look on the second page, it says mail to.
Oh, mail to sole agent, Mr. Ackerman. Okay, because he's the sole agent and he's been designated by Mr. Bolo as the sole agent, so. So no, he's not getting mail from us because he's designated Mr. Ackerman as the sole agent. Just so we're clear, if that's,
Is he aware that he has this gentleman still listed as a sole agent? Okay. So there's no question.
Yeah, because I
I
did the
mean,
inspection.
it's designated by him.
Yeah, it's, I mean, they pick the sole agent, they have it notarized, it's all done by the property owner.
Correct. I just want to make sure, like, maybe there wasn't a falling out, that guy's gone and he forgot to tell us type thing, you know how that
I
goes.
did the inspection with the sole agent with Kenny Ackerman, so.
Thanks. And then I also wanted to just, only because I see it highlighted on here, the last one that we did table was that the new mailing address. Is this all they have to do is tell us that they have a new mailing address?
No, and actually, if we got into that, I would have showed that, the property is still listed with the county as the previous address that we mailed all his stuff to.
Okay,
We have received since then a property use form which has the new address on it, so we have it, but the county doesn't have it yet, so.
how does that work?
We usually, if we get a new one, I can send it on to the, finance office, and then I think Gail sends it to the
The county.
county.
Okay.
And it goes both, obviously both ways, but.
Thanks.
For the information of the board, there have been several appeals made on what we call rebuilds, ones that are sent out in advance of being put on the taxes. So the bill would be from April, let's say, wasn't appealed. They get a second bill, they appeal it. Carrie and I have been sending letters to those people saying, I'm sorry, you were not, it was not done in a timely manner. So you're not seeing any of those, just in case that question comes up or somebody comes in and says, oh,
I've seen the emails, there's email trail.
yeah, I mean, it's better, yeah, I've been trying to include everybody, but just because that's this year, we seem to have gotten a lot of those. We always get a few, but we seem to get a lot. Are there additional items that you want to share with the board?
I was gonna mention a couple of things.
Okay,
One of them is I have restoration agreements for blighted properties. And people are not meeting these dates. Virtually all of them have defaulted on their date.
that's
So.
because it's really easy to send in an agreement and then not do anything, right?
So Paul Schmick, who will be appealing his blighted fee, and it's pronounced differently, but Jeffrey DeVingio, who was here before, we had a police officer here when he was here. is appealing this blighted fee. He's easy, Jeff is, he didn't submit a restoration agreement. Paul did, failed to meet his date, I immediately issued the fee. I don't know if you guys wanna revisit these, because again, it's not
I
happening.
think when we do, you've indicated that in the December meeting, depending on the length of our agenda, but we probably should do it in the December meeting, that we will review the properties that we've designated as blighted, and you will give us a status report of each one. And that's one of the things you can include in that status report is we declared it blighted. Nothing happened, they got the fee. We declared it blighted, they put in a restoration agreement, they didn't do anything. Or they didn't meet any of the dates that they indicated, and then we just need to see the restoration agreement. And see that they didn't meet any of the dates. I mean, according to the code, our job is to say that it's blighted. And after that, I suppose we get appeals.
Well, I think what I'm trying to avoid is I know they're going to appeal. Scott Gouster, for example, he has not specifically met what he said he was gonna do. And he said, well, my house burned down, and granted, that house has been vacant years prior to COVID,
2016.
years prior to, the house burning.
But
His house
now we
burning.
have a blighted ordinance, which we
Right.
didn't have before.
So he said, I prepared the ground, everything's set to go for the stairs to go in. And, okay, so he's made a little progress, but he hasn't met the terms here, which then he will appeal, and if we are overturning I don't wanna have to come in here and lose every single blighted appeal.
Yeah.
Or,
I mean, I think an important part of that too is the restoration agreements were established by the individual. Like Scott provided the dates, but not just Scott, but just generally speaking. The property owner provided the dates. Like we didn't
Force
dictate
anybody.
those dates.
Right.
The property owner said, I'm going to do this on this date. I'm going to do this on this date.
So
And to date, the only restoration agreement that we questioned was for a property that didn't really fill it out. I mean, they essentially just wrote, get stuff done and didn't
I mean,
submit
that's
it.
not a restoration.
So then I have a question from there. So we've blighted a property, we've made them create this restoration process. They've picked the dates, which we all knew was how it went. They have not met those dates. We've now applied fees because those dates have not been met.
Right.
Where do you go from there? What do we as a board?
So they're appealing the fee just like any other fee. It's
Okay,
just
so
like any
they appeal
administrative
that fee and I say, let's say we deny, we all deny that. You have to pay, you didn't meet your agreement. What happens from there?
It's just like any other administrative fee. We would request a new restoration agreement with new dates.
If we say
new
no,
fees.
So they start the process all over again.
if we
With
say,
new dates that they also don't meet, let's say, and then we just keep going through this whole rigmarole.
Well,
When do
ideally,
we come up with a plan where it stops and like how, not that you have an answer, but how do we, which is why I asked, what are all these properties that we've all done all this work on?
so
And that
what,
you guys bust your butt with, what does the council, the city, the code, where does it actually have an action happen at that point?
so like, for example, one of these blighted properties is now going to the Supreme Court to get
Okay,
a judge to order that the property be cleaned, or they could lose the house, go to jail.
okay.
That's what if we have one that we just, the idea is that the fee is so high that someone like Scott Gouster will not
Miss those dates.
miss the dates. That's the point of the fee, is to,
Right.
be a very heavy,
Sorry, right,
yeah. If that doesn't work, then eventually we go to court. That's the end. So
but you
like
keep
40
assessing the fee, and they are welcome to come and say, the fee is not appropriate because I did X, Y, and Z.
$2,500.
And I think my question is slightly different than yours. My question is, what if they are not making progress, but they might be making a little progress? Is it appropriate for them to come back and say, I'd like to amend my restoration agreement, will you agree with it?
So we've offered that.
Yeah,
I mean, we have some of these
They've
problems.
done- yeah, that I know
We're
they've
not, I
done.
mean, we're not sitting here with a draconian like,
no, I didn't think you were, but what I'm saying is, once that is offered and it's not, the second thing is that, we still don't have any reason to not impose the fee.
Right.
We're saying it's up to you, property owner.
Mhm.
It's up to you to work with the code enforcement office to come up with a plan to make this property not blighted. And you either meet it, you've proposed it, you either meet it or you don't meet it. And the fee is only to encourage you to actually do the thing. So,
Now, with these houses, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
that's all right.
With these houses that, like what Marge is saying, where you've given the opportunity to say, hey, have you gone to them and said, hey, you're coming up to your date and this isn't done type thing, or because you're doing inspections, or I mean,
So, yes,
yeah.
I got a call on my phone. It was in my off time. I answered the phone. It was one of the guys on these restoration agreements. And he said, hey, because I sent him an email and I said, you're gonna get a blight fee. And he said, hey, my aunt died. I had to go down there and COVID. And I said, well, you know, this is me trying to work with him. I said, you need to get the exterior of the property clean. I said, there's a tub in the front yard, there's a toilet in the front yard, the stairs are unsafe, but you need to clean it.
there's a hole in the roof.
Because we hear about it every time that something new appears in the yard.
At least clean it and then let's work on a date type thing. Okay.
So it sat for 3 weeks uncleaned. And I would issue him a blighted fee. I haven't done it yet because he said, I've done little bits, and you'll see, everybody's done little bits of progress, but it's nothing close to what they originally stated.
Well, and as this is human nature, unfortunately,
Life
that when
happens.
we declare it blighted and they get their announcement, then they quick come up with something. But then it all falls, by the wayside, and they're kind of motivated because, oh my goodness, and then it's like, well, that property, I should be doing something there, but that's unfortunately the way people are, so, but they're really go ahead.
So they do a little bit, just to hoping that's you're gonna get off the back,
Mhm.
and then that is.
Margot Heck,
Mm.
great, she got the garage down. There's a heaping pile of junk that has been sitting there for months and months.
Everything that was inside the garage is
Is-
now just
In a
It's just
pile.
there.
in a pile.
Yeah,
So-
and in a way, it's something that we should clean up and, bulldoze and send her a bill. But it says she's getting a blighted fee, which would have paid for her to clean
Yeah.
that up.
Like I said, I could go back in the office, blight, send all the fees out, and then I'll probably have 6 appeals. Come.
My concern is that I understand the concept of why we're doing it and how to why we're trying to deter it, but if it's gonna go to court every single case we have in front of us, we're losing money at that point. We're not doing anything to fix the situation. Now we're losing money because we have to pay for our lawyer to go to court, and it's gonna be dragged out for months,
Oh, yeah.
especially with COVID and all the,
Well, this
Crap,
102
what do we-
River has been quite a while.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so basically what it comes down to is the city always has the ability to correct violations. We can always correct those violations by billing the homeowner. The question then becomes like, we have to have a legal, we can't just bulldoze someone's garage.
Right.
We have to have there's a legal process for us to enter the property, bulldoze the garage, remove the material, bill the owner. And that's always gonna involve court. I mean, also, like, the city is probably not gonna remodel a house and bill the owner for it.
No,
I
not
mean,
right. It's the exterior.
No, I'm talking about
it's still the
exterior stuff,
same
like
thing.
this pile of garbage that's sitting there since the garage has come down. So now it's still sitting there, it's months later, we're still getting complaints about it, I'm sure there's rodents all over the place because of it, infestation, whatever. And now we're gonna give her a blighted fee, but can we still, on top of that, go in and
Yeah.
clean it up
We
and
can,
then?
so
feed her?
we always have the option to engage in additional enforcement activities. if you look at all these statutes and ordinances, they all say, this isn't the only thing that can happen to you. This fee is not the only enforcement mechanism, this process is not the only mechanism. So on top of the blighted fee, for example, the one that's in court, they're getting a blighted fee and they're also being taken to court and they're also facing additional penalties associated with other things going on in the property. So there's 195 Main was kind of the same way, like we were they were on administrative fees while they were simultaneously in court.
Right.
So they all work together. I mean, the idea is just, the purpose of the blighted fee was to kind of say, you can't just sit here with a vacant house. Here's a fairly large administrative fee that represents the time we spend calling these people, dealing with tenant complaints or neighbor complaints, dealing with the process of having these kind of float around buildings that no one wanted to do anything with.
Right.
I mean, maybe the fee just isn't high enough. I mean, that's, so yeah. I mean,
Council
that's-
thing now,
Right.
Mr. Trent.
And as we found with determining whether something is blighted because of the point system.
Right.
Determining whether they put in a restoration agreement and met it is equally factual. Like they did or they didn't. So appeals from this, yeah, we don't want any more appeals. We've got a big agenda. We don't want to spend an inordinate amount of time at a meeting, but I think these appeals are in some ways easier than some of the other appeals that we get.
Yeah, I'm not worried about that. I'm just worried about, they better do all this legwork again, and we have all this time and all this lost money again. Look, because the
Yeah,
more
it's
we
just-
keep looking at the same property that we've already looked at as a board, for you guys to get the process going, it's still continuously and it's a loss in money, it's a loss for
And
the
that's
city.
part of the reason why the administrative fee is like justifiably high, because we
Right.
anticipated that these would take a lot of time.
Right,
So the thing with the administrative fees is that they're not really supposed to be a money collecting thing, they're supposed to represent actual
right,
work time.
deterrent, right.
So.
And it does.
Right, so the
And
blighted property
yeah.
fee is high because we basically anticipate the properties being blighted are ones that we're spending. And you can go down the list, they're ones that
yeah.
we spent a lot of time with, and that's why the fee is so high.
Yeah, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be a higher fee, I'm just saying that I feel like maybe I'm just saying that it's not enough, because I know that now, here we are 10 properties later, we're starting all over again at this point, so it's.
And
it's
and
just-
unfortunately, the incentive of the higher fee to actually put together a restoration and then do it is not, the
No.
incentive hasn't been enough.
Right.
But, you know, it is a new thing.
Yeah, I know,
And,
I
and
know,
the property owners aren't used to this particular
Mechanism.
incentive. So we just have to get them used to it. You know, just like we did with administrative fees. Administrative fees took us a long time, several years, to really get so that we could know what we were talking about and what we were
Right.
doing and feeling comfortable with the yeses and the nos. I think we've gotten there, and I think we're going to get there with blighted.
We
It's
said on
just
time in our
unfortunate
ordinance.
that blighted is, that we're so, part of it is COVID, part of it is the economy, part of it is landlords. I mean, people
people are.
are irresponsible
Mhm.
like our society is becoming more and more irresponsible.
So I mean, the other interesting thing about these blighted ones is they mostly are not like serial landlords, they're not like a Peter
No,
Clark or.
no,
Yeah.
these are property owners.
These are just
who are
individual
just-
property owners
yeah.
that
Yeah.
own a house or one random property or,
Actually, they're mostly local.
yeah, mostly
They're
local
local,
people
yeah.
that just own a house, a random thing.
And don't take care of it. I mean, this is.
Oh, I know that.
For those of
I
you
get
on
that.
the
I
board
just-
for a long time, Margot Heck is a perfect example of
Yeah.
that. She's been before us in a very unfortunate way for years and years and years, and, you know, and she just happens to be having a property that she can't take care of. And isn't taken care of.
Yeah, I know, yeah.
So, okay, so we're hoping for that meeting, as long as we don't get a jillion other things,
So
but.
are you, I'm sorry, are you then gonna blight these properties? You're gonna citate the fees now for next month, so that?
Yeah, I mean,
Appeals?
I can send all these people invoices, I was trying to get a feel of
We're ready.
how
We're
the
ready.
board
I
feels
think you,
about it.
I think you have to do it. I don't think it can be arbitrary. I think you have to say, you didn't meet your, I mean, like
Yeah.
every time. You
Yeah.
shouldn't say, well, what's our field? No, it's either you met it or you didn't.
Oh, yeah, well, that's what I'm gonna do, I just don't wanna lose 6 appeals, you know?
So I think we're together on that.
Yes.
And then the other thing is, I just wanted to mention, because I know that the city is always trying to get in the black with the budget, but anyway, I have a suspicion that we have, Reese from the police department, she's the dog catcher and
Oh,
parking enforcement. She's doing some maintenance things now. And we're gonna use her a lot this winter for snow removal.
Oh,
Yeah, so, hopefully, she's already out there anyway, might as well do it, so.
how do we get around the private versus public work? Like doing work on private property by a city employee?
I think he's already had that discussion, having
That's always
Brian
why
go
we-
clean the property.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we've always had to contract out, because we have a contractor who has insurance, et cetera, and they go on a private property and they go on the sidewalk and,
Oh, yeah, so we use city employees for that now.
I mean, because it's better for us in a way.
Yeah, I mean, what was happening is when we had contract workers doing work for us, we would have days where they would go out and shovel snow when there was a half an inch of snow, and we would get $30,000 of snow. So what became much more effective for us is by using city employees that we could set a set rate on. We're supervising them, we're directly telling them what to do, what not to do.
Yeah, I mean, that'll make us happy.
So we don't have a contract anymore.
No,
Oh, that's
we
lovely.
have 2 city employees who
Excellent.
are at our, we supervise them. So we tell them what to do, what not to do. If there's questions about billing, or if it's all done internally so that we're not having to. Before, what we were having to do is if an appeal is denied, the contractor was being paid one way or the other. So if
We were losing money. Yeah.
it wasn't that we were losing money, it was that we were paying a contractor whether he did a good job or a bad job, or didn't do the job, or
Yeah.
was overzealous.
So is the process still gonna be the same where your employees, city employees gonna take pictures, date it,
They do
time
the
it,
exact
the
same
whole
thing.
process
Yeah.
is the same? Because we don't have to contract out, and it is a lot
How
easier.
comparable is the fee going to be? It's
So-
still gonna be 100% or 150% of the cost?
It's an hourly, so we bill $125 per cost, per thing. So if the city worker's there, if we have to send a city worker, it's $125.
So hundred
That's
twenty-five
based-
for snow removal, no matter how much
It's
linear
all,
foot.
it's all based on what we pay a 1 hour rate to a city employee with city equipment, city truck, city.
So no matter linear foot.
Yeah, so if the contractor's there for more than an hour, there's a set hourly rate, but if we have to go do something, we bill for an hour. Which pretty much all these are like 1 hour jobs.
So over 1 hour, then there's
That would be
rates.
interesting, because some of them are really tiny.
And that's what's happened,
It won't be an hour.
we've had to clean up garbage and it took 4 minutes and we bill them $125 because we have to call our city worker, have them get in a truck, drive over, collect the garbage,
Love it.
take it to Casella.
Okay, well, that'll be different. Okay, good. That's good to know, because we'll get the
Who
deal.
came up with that idea, Steve? Good job.
And it works.
It also, so
I
the
like
other
it.
thing it did was it was
Well,
when
should be city employees. do it.
we don't have to do certified payroll anymore, we don't have to put out contracts to bid, we
Great.
don't have to, so.
Good.
And so far it's been cleaner because they're city employees and we supervise them,
Right,
there's less.
it's clean and
Right.
straightforward.
There's less chance that they're going to do something that they shouldn't have done.
Or they do something.
And if they do, it's on us.
Or do
Unfortunately,
the wrong property by accident.
Right.
yeah, I've had to talk to the previous contractors and tell them that it was more seamless than they,
Yeah.
they want it to fail, but it's actually been pretty.
So we're agreed.
Yeah, they turn it into receipts and the pictures probably almost, 10 minutes after he's done doing it.
That's
I mean,
great.
it's like this.
So instead of generating invoices 30 days after the work was
It's
done, it's
immediate.
almost the same, within the
That's
same
awesome.
2-hour period.
That's what.
Good, well, that will have a little bit closer relationship, so we won't get snow appeals in June.
Can I ask another question? Does everybody know that the fees have changed to this flat rate? Has the city been notified? Have the city people been notified of this? Because I had no clue.
So it was part of a public, the whole process was in a public meeting and part of the public agenda, I guess. I mean, we could send out some sort of,
Yeah, it might be worthwhile, I think what Dana's getting at is it might be worthwhile to have a nixle or something in the paper saying, when the snow starts falling, we do have a snow ordinance that we
Right.
have to clear it by 9 o'clock after the snow has stopped falling and when there's 2 inches or more of snow. And
Say that
as
because
if the city will now be doing it itself, just so that there's no.
the set fee starts at $125 because Joe Schmo who doesn't do his sidewalk and we do it every month for $30 is now getting hit with $125. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because we have a lot of those Joe Schmoes within the city, I know.
Right, and
Sorry, Joe.
they don't get around to doing
Not
it
Schmo.
because they're doing 5 sidewalks. They start at 9 o'clock and they don't get done until noon on their 5 sidewalks. And meanwhile, you've gotten to 1 or 2 of them.
Right.
And so that seems unfair to the homeowner and to the contractor who says, look, I was, it's like Mr., what's his name? Oh, Sean Cobstill.
yeah, I mean, part of the fee is based on our cost for our
Well,
employees.
sure.
Yeah.
The other part of it was we didn't want to be competing with like local companies that remove snow by undercutting a local
Mhm.
company's snow removal rate.
Well, yeah,
And
because
typically
otherwise
when-
people would let you do it.
Right, and typically the way that we do it is we have them do the vacant properties first. So if we have a snow event, we're probably hitting like 60 vacant houses
Mhm.
before they even start on,
Calls from people complaining.
yes.
Yeah, but there are some of those that we used to watch that we knew were never getting done, even if they weren't vacant, that they knew, oh, it's only gonna cost me $30 for you to do my sidewalk. It's cheaper than me hiring somebody and we did it. So,
Or that you had gotten multiple complaints about, and then you started targeting
right,
that particular property and, whatever, I think it might be a good idea to involve the council in knowing which those properties are in their own ward, so that they are at least knowing that they're gonna get a fee for $125 and, they're gonna call you as well as come to us,
yeah,
so that we aren't having, council members show up and say, well, that was really unfair. Well,
We're also unveiling soon the website, and there's no reason we can't, because we're going into the winter season, that wouldn't be something we put up, as kind of a priority to the messaging.
Mhm.
yeah, I think
And have a
messaging is the
Facebook
most
page too,
important
if you
thing.
can, Terry.
And
just-
also just communication. Like, I know on my street, there are a couple of people who, if they're away, the street takes care of their sidewalk, just so that by 9 o'clock it's done.
Right.
But not every neighborhood
That's
is
what
like
you
that.
have to over communicate. John typically does a message just prior to the first snowfall, letting people know what to expect for winter season.
Yeah,
So
and,
we can add that to that message that he sends out.
yeah, I think we need to message
We
it
also send a
more than
nixle.
just once.
And a
So that we
Yeah,
can-
it'll go
Remember
Okay.
the garbage nixle?
Anything else?
Yeah,
So 503 Main Street, Ron Servicing Company or something, wants to lift the unsafe on that building, so I guess we'll take pictures and bring it for next month. They're the servicing company, and they believe that they have corrected the violation, so we'll bring that back next month, but that's one of our unsafes.
And we unsafe and blighted that
Yeah.
property.
Yeah. Yeah.
Is there still someone living there?
They claim there is not. They did an inspection, claiming that the property is indeed vacant. Now,
Well, that would solve part of their problem.
Right, so just as a heads up, though,
And just let's make sure we know what's, as much as what's happening there.
yes.
It's really easy to make statements without
Especially when you're in Colorado.
additional items before the
That would
board.
save us more if we get to the 10th.
Okay, thank you very, very